The Republican Party is often viewed as being the party of the right in America, by both those that live there and may be less engaged, and also by foreign onlookers, mainly Europeans. But this is a grave oversimplification. A party that got 74 million votes in the 2020 election, and has 35 million registered members, will have some semblance of ideological divergence, even within itself. This is the case for both Republicans and Democrats, whose ideologies and positions have changed over time. Republicans are classified as a conservative party, but this label is a veneer, as there are different definable factions that come together under the two-party system. I will attempt to break down these factions into identifiable groups. Hello, I'm History with Matt, and if you enjoy these sorts of videos, you subscribing would actually make a massive difference to this channel. So, with all that out of the way, let's get straight into it. NeoConservatives, or NeoCons, primary policy focus is that of an interventionist foreign policy. They are pro-free trade, as this coincides with their internationalist viewpoint. They will often look to militarily intervene in countries, usually under a perceived morally valid purpose, i.e. to spread democracy.
Anakin, my allegiance is to the Republic, to democracy!
To remove a dictator, to prevent the manufacturing of nuclear weapons, and to protect minorities, etc., etc. Neocons often use American exceptionalism, and a belief that it should be spread and adopted by other countries, regardless if they are interested in it or not. They are usually physically and socially conservative, but this will move to the background if it means that their foreign interests get more priority. Though it is worth noting that they have had decreased influence in the Republican Party during Trump's presidency, as he had pushed a policy of non-interventionism. Prominent leaders of this faction are former Vice President Dick Cheney, Senator Lindsey Graham, Ambassador to the UN and National Security Advisor John Bolton, and Secretary of State Mike Pompeo. Moderate Republicans are broadly conservative on physical issues and moderate on liberal issues, and are seen in the more democratic states, especially in the New England region. They are often affluent, highly educated, and oppose Trump. This group is seen as a successor to the Rockefeller Republicans of the mid-20th century. While they agree with most Republicans on economics, i.e. low taxes, low regulations, they believe in abortion, gun control, same-sex marriage, and less restrictions on immigration. Moderates pride themselves on bipartisanship and the ability to pass through legislation through Congress by working across the aisle. They are also seen as being pro-globalization and are usually interventionist, but there are examples such as Lincoln Chafee, a senator from Rhode Island who was the only Republican in the Senate to vote against the war in Iraq. However, he would later endorse Obama and switch over to the Democrats and briefly ran to be the Democratic nominee in 2020. Prominent figures of this faction include former Governor Charlie Baker, Senator Susan Collins, and Representative Brian Fitzpatrick, who was the most bipartisan member of the Congress. Libertarians. Though there is a lesser-known third party in the US called the Libertarian Party that garnered near 2 million votes in 2020, Libertarians that operate in the Republican Party differ from the third-party counterparts.
Someone have to have a government-issued license to drive a car.
Hell no.
What's next? Requiring a license to make toast in your own damn toaster?
The license to drive? You know, I'd like to see some competency exhibited by people before they drive.
They are social conservatives, with an emphasis on individuality. They are vehemently anti-government. That comes from distrust in government, as they look to decentralise the government, removing most of its functions, giving it to private corporations. An example of this would be healthcare. They believe in lowering taxes and near complete stripping away of regulations.
Hi, Dan. I just moved in next door. I'm a supermodel.
I don't care who the IRS sends, I am not paying taxes.
Belief that private entities will, without restraint, will grow and help society. They believe in reducing government spending to its most limited function, often pointing at the ballooning national debt. Libertarians are non-interventionists, supporting the removal of the Patriot Act as they see it as government overreach, as well as opposing the war on drugs. These libertarians in the GOP will often call themselves constitutional conservatives. Prominent figures in this group include Representative Thomas Massie, Senator Rand Paul, and his father, former Republican presidential contender Ron Paul. Old Right. The Old Right faction is generally seen as a successor to Reagan-era conservatism. It's defined by its hands-off approach, as it believes in state authority, and that their job is to empower the states to pass conservative policies locally. They often refer to America as an idea. They are fairly laissez-faire economically and promote physical conservatism. They are hesitant to use federal power, and this is seen as many other members on the right see them as ineffective. They believe in power of institutions and will do little to disrupt it. Prominent members of this faction include Senator Mitch McConnell, John Cornyn, and John Thune. The Christian Right. The Christian right is denoted by its strong socio-conservatism, and even the more extreme in this faction believe in Christian nationalism. Christian nationalists seek to declare the US as a Christian nation, enforce Christian values, and overturn the separation of church and state. They use the teaching of Christianity to influence their policies, such as a strong belief in national hierarchy, increased nationalism, and a willingness to use government power to push conservatism. The Christian right is made up of a core of evangelical Protestants, as well as more recently conservative Catholics and some Mormons. Prominent figures in this group include Senator Marsha Blackburn and former Governor Mike Huckabee. The MAGA wing. With the rise of Donald Trump in 2016, the MAGA faction is essentially an extension of Trump's power over the legislature. A key characteristic of this faction is that most of the time they do not have actual concrete ideas or ideology themselves, mainly doing or saying whatever Trump is advocating for. They support protectionism, securing the border, and are anti-left. They will go after other Republicans who disapprove of Trump, calling them rhinos, or Republicans in name only. Prominent figures of this faction include Marjorie Taylor Greene, Elise Stefanik, and Lauren Boebert. America First. The America First faction is similar to the MAGA faction, however I note a couple of differences between the two. America First actually has an ideology, and one that is not rooted in whatever Donald Trump is doing. They support Trump, but some members at times are willing to call him out on some of their perceived failures of his presidency. This could be the debt, not securing the border by not building the wall, not fully withdrawing US troops from some geopolitical conflicts such as US troops in Syria.
The border issue and immigration. Unfortunately, then President Trump sided with Paul Ryan to choose an amnesty-first, non-security bill as the bill that he endorsed and got behind. Now look, I support a lot of the people who worked for President Trump's administration, Tom Homan, Mark Morgan, they're friends of mine, I work with them all the time. A lot of good things that were done with respect to remain in Mexico and those issues. But it matters that you actually fight to work with Congress and lead to get permanent changes. Had we gotten permanent changes in 2018 that Ron DeSantis fought for when he was in the Freedom Caucus, but that we got stopped because President Trump sided with Paul Ryan, we wouldn't have as bad of an issue as we have right now because
they are strongly protectionist, nationalistic, and they practice economic pragmatism, and are willing to adopt policies that some on the right may call progressive, such as with regards to healthcare.
Republican wants to do a big number on Social Security. They want to do it on Medicare. They want to do it on Medicaid. And we can't do that. And it's not fair to the people that have been paying in for years, and now all of a sudden they want to be cut.
As they believe the state should help ensure a higher quality of life for Americans and demonstrate a willingness to use federal power to do so. Prominent figures in this faction include Senators Josh Hawley and J.D. Vance and Representative Bob Good. The anti-Trump faction. As most of the factions I've mentioned in the Republican Party so far support Trump, or at the very least tolerate him to a certain degree, there is an anti-Trump faction within the GOP. This is a diverse faction who may oppose Trump for a number of different reasons. When Trump first ran, some opposed him because they viewed him as not conservative. Later, others opposed him because they viewed him as too far right. Others opposed him for his rhetoric. Others resent him for the direction he has taken the party, and wish to see it reverted to the McCain, Romney, Bush-style Republican Party of the 2000s. Others oppose him for January 6th, and some even call him a cancer in the party. Some even voted for his impeachment and served in the January 6th committee. This faction is becoming smaller over time, as more of their members either retire or are primaried out. Many of the individuals, once they leave office, get some form of high-paying lobbying job, become paid political commentators for either CNN, MSNBC, etc. Since the denouncement of Trump, they will either switch parties to the Democrats or endorse Democrats over Republicans due to what they believe is to protecting democracy. Prominent figures of this faction include Liz Cheney, Adam Kinzinger, Mitt Romney, Todd Young, and Chris Christie. If you enjoyed this video, consider subscribing because it helps boost the channel. I've been History with Matt. Thank you very much for watching.